Oh, g'day. So just looking up at the sky and appreciating the beautiful, glorious, picturesque environment that I just find myself in here, and thinking about today being Good Friday. What's so good about today? What's the story with it? Now it's something that we sort of find it touches us close to the heart, but how close to the heart is it really? I seem to have lost my cup of tea here. I'm going to put my cup of tea. Oh, my cup of tea's over there. And so we find, we've got a story that lasts for 2,000 years. It's got me thinking about a lot of different things. What's it about? How much of the story still carries through that we remember? And we apply and we practice the most important things in life on a daily basis. Making our life better and making the life of everyone else around us better. Now, today is a day about a bloke being executed for speaking the truth. And pointing it out to the public and to the people that were doing it as well, that there are some people that are not doing good things with the power that they have in the community. And for that he was executed. So we have this thing that's layered over the top about mysticism, and yesterday was a day about eating that fella's body and drinking his blood. And then there's a certain communion that's supposed to come with that, as in an integration and a bridging of the human soul and the human mind and the human desires and the human processes that lead us to be where we are, what we are, that we are, how we are, if we are, and the divine, the cosmic birther of all things, the Almighty, the Creator. Now we find that there's a number of different traditions seem to be steeped in and thrown together with that. And then we find that there seems to be a lot of political agenda underneath it all. And I find it fascinating that you have this combination making up this story that lasts for 2,000 years. And then there's this thing about original sin and about abstinence and about guilt and shame and forbearance. And so Alan Watts did say one time that we end up having sex on the brain for 2,000 years because as a result of 2,000 years of Christianity, we now have a society that's got sex on the brain, which is not necessarily the best place for it. And that's an interesting concept, isn't it? To consider that we're so repressed because of these ideas of guilt and all these multi-layered different stories and traditions and hidden messages, 20,000 different denominations of Christianity, blood being shed in the name of God on all different sides of all different fences. Where do we find ourselves now? On the 18th day of April, 2025. What have we learned? How are we living? For example, I take a sip of tea and I'm sort of trying to make it sober, like, is there something I can gain from this drinking the body of the Christ? Right, so make this cup of tea like the body of the Christ. Does it do anything for me? Or is it just abstract? I kind of surmise that it's pretty much just abstract, but I do find that through the abstract there's this sort of identification, for lack of a better word. It seems very familiar. It seems like most things in this world are indeed abstract, and we've got to try and make sense of it somehow. We've got to try and decipher and interpret, make sense of these different things that are projected at us all the time. There's constant messages. It's like you can't actually look anywhere. I can't actually look anywhere except up into the trees or into the sky to not see some kind of message deciphered, or some kind of message in front of me that my mind naturally wants to decipher. And then even I look up at the sky and you see these symbols up there in the machinery that's flying through the sky. Then, we're at a saturation point, aren't we? And we're always trying to work it out. We're always trying to work out what means what and where we're supposed to be in life, who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be, and why we're supposed to be, if we're supposed to be. And I don't really have the solutions or answers. I just have more questions. But there's something interesting here, I've been thinking about, because we have this Lent thing, we have this Ramadan thing, we have this Baha'i thing, which I always confuse with Bayu, but it's not Bayu, it's Baha'i. And then we got whatever else is going on. It seems across the world, all the different cultures throughout history, got something about this particular time of year being about beginning again and about fasting, so purification and renewing. So there's this theme that seems to go through. You want to look it up yourself, do your own research please. Look it up and you see that there's a consistency that goes through. There's a theme at this current kind of time every year about purification, about renewing, about coming close to yourself, about being still and solitary and having a reflection and a letting go, and then having a creating new and expanding and including others. It's very interesting. You see it, look it up. And so it comes off the back of like a fasting kind of time as well. With Lent. Lent is coming to an end now because it's come to Easter, right? It's a Good Friday. So there's been this Lent thing going on, which has been overlapping with Ramadan. Last year was the first time in 70 years or something that it all occurred at the same time. As the moon's changed, the time's changed, and we're running all these different calendars and we're trying to make sense of it. We're deciphering everything and making sense of it, putting it into order so we can work it out and we can be in control of it. We can know who we are. Carl Jung said that at the end of his career, after all this time of doing this psychoanalysis and all this other interesting stuff that he was doing, he concluded that pretty much the main thing of what most people are doing when they're talking to him and when they're going through their processes, when they're going through the therapeutic processes and all the stuff that he was into, and he was one of the only people up until that point in time. Look at the size of that mosquito on me. Look at the size of that mosquito. Look, oh, money, Papa. Oh. I heard it hit the ground. It went thud. Now, he was saying the main thing is about validation of the self against the backdrop of the stars and the cosmos at large. Isn't that an interesting concept? I've been thinking about that for a few months. And that's about as good as it gets, really. It's why we do most of the things that we do, really. It doesn't really come to any further motivation or reward or gratification or satisfaction or contentment rather than that, really, does it? Because we're just too busy getting through the day, really. No matter who we are. No matter what we've got or what we don't have. No matter who we are or who we are not. We get to a point where we're just got to get through the day. That's what it's about. And so then we got this other thing about the book of Job. And again, Carl Jung presents this thing, this story, this idea, right? This notion that there's got to be this duality, separation thing. So from the one, there's a two, and there's got to be a zero as well. Otherwise, existence just can't be. The one can't exist without the at least the two as the opposite, but it also needs to have the zero. Otherwise, it just can't exist, right? I don't know if Carl Jung said that or not. I'm throwing that bit in. Anyway, so we're talking about Job, the book of Job. Now Job is he's treated pretty harshly by the Lord our God, who works in mysterious ways. This benevolent gentleman in the sky who knows us and sees us in every way and is able to feel it, knows our thoughts, sees everything, feels everything, is us, knows us personally, but is separate from us, and is like that benevolent gentleman in the sky overseeing everything. But, if we do wrong, then we have to fire the fire and the wrath and the salt and the oblivion, as in the restitution and the punishment that will come. Well, there's no way out of it, and it's more powerful than anything that there is out there, anything at all, right? And so there we have to find this sort of balance that we have to walk with, this benevolence. And then we got this external party who enacts in this God's will. It causes a fair bit of strife for Job. And fundamentally, at the end of this story, where it goes is that Job never loses his faith. He never gets down on God. The external gentleman in the sky is overseeing everything, and any punishment that will come through is this admonishment, and the punishment will be like, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, kind of attitude, like a good parent. Like a good parent. I don't want to punish you, and I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want there to be this admonishment in any manner at all, but it's got to happen, right? For the greater good. And it's going to hurt me a lot more than it's going to hurt you. So at this point, I see a relevance to be able to tie in the footprints in the sand story with this, because Job never lost faith, right? So there's this relevance here about, there's that story of the footprints in the sand, which I'm sure everybody knows because we're forced to grow up in this world. Then there's the point where old mate, whoever he was, looking back at his life and seeing these footprints in the sand. There's 2 tracks of footprints. And then he turns, he said, because some people get to have a conversation with God, you see. They get to have dialogue. And so this one, they get to have an audience. And so this one, he turned, he said to God, he said, look at this point in my life here, where there's only one set of tracks. He's like, you abandoned me, God. Like, you abandoned me. Why did you abandon me back then? And then God says, no, my son, that was me. Those are my footprints. I was carrying you then. You might have felt like I abandoned you, but I was carrying you, right? That's what that was about. So just sort of throw that one in there just as a contrast and come back to the story there, as Young pointed out, that That Job, he never gave up on God. He never broke. He never let it ruin his day. He never let it ruin his life. Somehow. Pretty crazy stuff that went down, you know. It's like, I don't know how he managed to do it. Better man than me. Now, what that does is that if you want to look at it from this metaphorical mythology, then you can see that there's this thing that for some reason is pressed into this way, and then it doesn't come to a full result. This is as it's presented to me by my mentor, John Nobbs, given his interpretation of Young's interpretation. And so you go to this point, right? So the story, all the stories in the Bible are all complete, pretty much, you know, as far as you can decipher what the hell they're supposed to mean. Particularly Old Testament, I mean, like, what are the morals of those stories? Like, do not tell the truth, don't admit to nothing, don't do what you're told, don't stick together, don't be loyal, don't be obedient. There's one thing, don't drink alcohol. Get that one clear. You drink alcohol if you're having sex with your daughters. Goodness gracious me. And if you see a city being smited, do not turn around and look at it, otherwise you'll turn to salt. And generally, if there's a hill, or if there's a temple, it's better to just not go to the top of that hill, or not look over what's on the other side of that hill. It's just better to not know about it. And if there's a temple of any kind, then just don't go in it. Don't go anywhere near it. Take a wide berth. Because otherwise you're bound to cause yourself some political strife in some manner, either now or in the far distant future when your ancestors are fighting over. So just stay away from all of it, and if you see any swords on the ground, lie down amongst them and pretend to be dead until the armies have moved past you. Don't interact, otherwise you'll be caught into that terrible, treacherous story. So anyways, where we find ourselves now, this point of reflection in the story, is that it's kind of presented to me anyway, that it's kind of like, as far as the creation is concerned, for God creating man, and in his image, right? In his image, this is all very masculine, patriarchal. Then it's all about experience. To understand and to have the soul to be fed and nourished and nurtured. That's what creation is all about, is expression, experience, yeah? Experience is food for the soul. And our experiences are food for the soul of the Almighty Creator, that we are created from in his image, from the same divine spark, as in the Holy Spirit is within us, as we are created from that. And we form that heaven, earth, man, Father, Son, Holy Spirit kind of thing, you see? And so when we get to this point, then it gives me some kind of reason to consider that someone, or another two as well, people might carry this cross through the streets and then up this big bloody hill. I mean, what's the penalty if you don't do that? They're going to kill you? They're going to flog you to death and kill you? What else are they going to do? Because you're already being flogged to death and you're going to be killed once you get to the top of that hill. So what the hell is the point of carrying your own cross up there? I mean, better off using your last bit of energy to fight back and have a fist fight with your oppressors so that they kill you on the spot down there. or they drag you to the top of the hill. No way. I mean, like, if you think about it, would you drag this big heavy cross up the hill so that you can be killed up there, when you're going to be killed anyway and you're going to be flogged anyway? You're already being flogged and you're going to be killed and you're good as dead. There's no way out of it. So would you, in your right mind, or any kind of mind, no matter what, would you pick up that cross, no matter whether you're being flogged, burnt, electrocuted, stuck with pins, whatever? You're not going to carry that cross up that hill, are you? You're not going to waste your energy on that. Because the penalty is going to be that you're going to get flogged and killed, which is going to happen anyway. So if we throw some metaphorical thing into that, then we can see, if you look at it this way, I'm able to see something from it. Then you go, well, maybe that gives rise, because God is kind of a little bit perplexed about how it was that Job never gave up faith on him. You know what I mean? Never gave it up. So he's sort of got something undone. He needs to go and have some experience himself, right? So we get this manifestation somehow, however you want to justify it, that there's a manifestation of a human being that is the only Son, and is the Son of God, and is the divine, and comes through some miraculous, immaculate conception, whatever, however that all comes about. What's relevant is that there's a birth that's foretold. That's good enough for me. There are 3 astrologers who also would have been mathematicians and scientists and artisans and artists and doctors and warriors, like Jedi Knight kind of thing, right? That come from India or from Persia to collect a baby whose birth was foretold, and had frankincense, myrrh and gold there to provide spiritual nurture, spiritual protection, spiritual nurture. Not because it was expensive and they could buy their way out of trouble. I think they probably had money and gold and jewels and swords and spears and stuff like that, and strategy and expensive clothing and stuff like that, you know, for that kind of thing. But, you know, there's it's for spiritual nurture. And so something pretty significant anyway is taken back to the East, trained, brought up in the old ways. Remember that both Lao Tzu and Buddha lived 500 years earlier, and Taoists say that Lao Tzu travelled to India from China on an ox and enlightened the Buddha, and that's why cows are sacred. Whereas Buddhists say that Buddha sat under a Bodhi tree for 40 days and 40 nights, which is significant because you'll be tested for 40 days and 40 nights, and coincidentally that's the orbit of Venus around the Sun. Venus is a planet of indulgence. Venus just become direct and now is going to station next to Saturn. I'm going to be there for quite a while now. Like, it's going to be a long station. We've got a couple of weeks, some pretty serious stuff with Venus, Saturn, and then, which is why I'm sort of thinking so deeply about all this kind of stuff, because it just come in this last week, and last weekend, last Saturday with the full moon, Mercury just before that. Then Mercury's gone into Aries on Tuesday, and then we've got Venus and Saturn coming together. And they're going to be moving across in the north node of the moon. So it's all about this positivity, get it together, sign the contract, work your stuff out, communicate, move forward together. But there's a lot about looking back into yourself and making sure you do it right, looking at the effect you have on other people, looking about what you actually want, what you actually need, who you are, what's important, what's not important, and why you're doing what you're doing, how you feel about what you're doing, how much energy you got, what the vibe is in general, all this kind of stuff, right? It's all going on. There's a huge amount of astrological influences going on right now. Okay? Now, it's very interesting because we had something last year with the overlap of it all, then there's huge amounts of astrology. And we've got something about the random number generators that are all around the world. They start spitting out the same numbers, they start working together and becoming quite aligned, and then get to the point of basically almost spitting out the same numbers for these periods of time. So it's interesting, we've got this 2024, 2025, 2026, 2028, but nowhere near as much. And then we've got 2032 and then 2040. These are the years due to all these other celestial correlations that are out there, right, that mean that that's when the random number generator is going to be spitting out the same numbers. So we've got something interesting here about the way that the Lent and the Ramadan and the Easter and the eclipse and all that stuff all fell together, right, last year. And now we got this rather large separation in some ways, only a year later. But then we got a lot of powerful astronomical and astrological Newtonian physics and quantum physics going on right now. It's a pretty big deal. Today's Good Friday, right? And the astrology that's going on out there in the world, in the solar system, and the convergences that are occurring, the angles that are forming from our perspective, and what's going on from the sun and the moon from our perspective, and then what's going on this planet from our perspective, is monumental. You know, like there's ways of measuring this stuff. There's all kinds of different ways of measuring this stuff, right? We've got all kinds of technology, and I can assure you that the data is going to be coming in this weekend. It's Friday today, so we've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I believe we've got an election in this country tomorrow. Is that correct? I'm not really up to date with all this kind of stuff. Not that we've got a choice on anything worthwhile. So I do apologise for that, because I was going to step up to that job, but I've got to sort out a few things, because I'll probably likely be assassinated within the first couple of weeks once I get the job. I think I'll win with a landslide, but then I'll probably be assassinated. So I just got to sort out a few other things before I can go and martyr myself like that. You see. But anyway, talking about that's just a really interesting thing to see. So see what happens this weekend, and that's why we're talking about this stuff, because it's real deep kind of stuff. You see. And so when we get to this point, like let's consider that for some reason there was this driving force to experience what it's like to be human. A human's got to be amongst other humans, you see. And then it's got to be persecuted and isolated and included and excluded and praised and valued and discarded and oppressed, included, invited, accepted, welcomed, and then insulted and cast out. It's got to be all these things amongst other humans. And then we have this thing of something that's like so far above us, we can't understand it. The best we can wrap our head around it is some kind of benevolent old gentleman in the sky that knows everything about us, and we must love with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul, sincerely. And if we don't, then he's going to know about it, and he's going to be gently admonishing us about that for us to do better next time. But if we do anything wrong, we're going to fire and wrath and brimstone will come from every angle, especially from above, and it's going to hurt him more than it's going to hurt us. And don't you dare question that. Don't you dare ever question or test God. God can test you, but don't you dare ever question or test God, okay? There's something in that. Don't ever test God. God can test you as many times as you want, but don't ever test God. And so anyway, we get to the top of the hill. We've got the Son of God cast out, persecuted, set up and framed, treated like criminals. I've had that thing. I've been set up and framed for something really simple by a police officer. Police officer called Senior Constable Anthony John Hudek. Absolute piece of work. Might as well be Satan himself. And just made something up on the spot on the side of the road within a few seconds of interaction. For some reason, why did he do it other than to just be the messenger of God, like what Satan was being in the book of Job? Set me up and framed me, and like I wanted to kill him. I still have thoughts of being, I want to destroy that man's life so that he commits suicide on the fucking streets in the cold winter in a fucking bottle. I do beg your pardon. So I'm showing you that there's there's a real thing. There's a real thing with that, you know, see. So that's what you get. That's what you get if you allow yourself to succumb. You can be faded out from your emotions. You become the anger and resentment and the bitterness. You wear the insult, you wear the offence. It's an interesting thing because there's also this thing about being out in the desert 40 days and 40 nights being tested. Now I come to realise that I've been lying to myself because I was sort of saying like I can't get offended, I can't be insulted, I don't give no one that power. But that police officer that I just talked about, well, I think I was actually offended by that prick. I want to see his demise. I want to see him die a pathetic death on the street in a freezing cold winter with his family having nothing. It was not interesting that I could think that still. I say it now and I actually don't really feel that. I don't really feel it, but it's easy enough for me to say still, isn't it? And that ties into where I'm going, because the only way I could get to such a conclusion, really, if you trace it back, sitting in that prison cell that day with that prick, setting me up and framing me, for nothing to come of it. But that day in that prison cell, I felt abandoned by God. I was so much in tune with the divine, right? And I'm seeing the divine play out, and then I'm just suddenly put in this prison cell, and I'm like, what is going on? And I feel like I was abandoned. The reason why I was abandoned is because I needed to learn what that was about, and I needed to come to grace myself, because I put that in my path. And I mean, I wanted to kill him with my bare hands. Not from a distance or anything, like I wanted to kill him with my bare hands, or with his own gun. You see what I mean? Like that's where that come from, you see. It's like not good enough to shoot him from a distance with his own gun or with anyone else's gun or whatever, you know. It's like, no, I need to go and either remove his trachea from his body with my own hands, or snap his neck with my own hands, or take his gun from him with my own hands, make him look me in the eye, and shoot him dead between the eyes with his own gun. That was the only options. That was all there was. No other options, no. And then it was like I had to work out how to be able to get in the car, obviously one of their cars, and then get 230 kilometres on a day that this other police officer, Talitha Favero, was working, and then be able to do the same thing with her, you see. Obviously, it was never going to work, but you see how the fantasy can be so consuming. I can say that stuff and I put it out there because I do want those two police officers to feel shame for being such pathetic examples of human beings, let alone police officers. And Queensland Police Service has got a lot of answer for allowing that kind of personality to be there, to be within it. I don't sincerely wish that those police officers commit suicide on the street in a freezing cold winter and their families have nothing, but I do actually want them to go all the way through to that point, that process of being about to die, about to give up hope because of that freezing cold concrete in their kidneys. And they've got no hope, and the shame and the guilt. And then, if you want to enter heaven, then first you must be reborn. And there's your salvation. If you want to enter heaven, then first you must be reborn. and then you want to be reborn, then you repent. And if you repent, you will be forgiven. And also then, what comes with that is this point of surrender, right? You got to have a total faith, and you got to have a total surrender. And then you're playing with the light, it's like, boo. Fade out the light, how can I do that? How do I do that? I fade out the light. I fade that light out, right? Fade the light out. Boo! Didn't work. Boo! Anyway. Just gone on a bit of a dark melancholy with that one. But it's kind of what it's about, so let's put ourselves in our 40 days of being tempted, day and night. The violation, the persecution, being set up and framed, being plotted against, being deceived, being betrayed. You're being betrayed by everything that you stand for. You're being betrayed by someone closer to you. And for something pathetic too, for nothing. For 30 pieces of silver. Probably not even that, because it didn't land on the floor, and so did he pick up 30 pieces of silver and only get 27 of them and get out of there? Because of shame and guilt. By the way, Passion of the Christ is a fantastic movie. I'm going to watch that today, so if anyone want to join me when watching that one, then I'm going to watch that one because it's a brilliant movie. They get the devil across in such a way. So good. So good. Hell of a risk-maker movie. It's brilliant art. So, what we get now, we get to this point, if I cut to the chase, or I come to conclusion, and we get to this point, right, that the Christed one, whose birth was foretold, he's been set up and framed, and he's been done over, and that's all there is to it, and he's going down, right? So he's carrying his cross up to the top of the hill. He gets up there. Now, he's supposed to leave him there for days, but the Romans aren't feeling good about this, so they want to get the show done and dusted and get out of there. You know, it's not good. It's not good. This is not a good scene. It's not what they signed up for. It's not what they're conscripted for. It's not what they're doing. It's not the reason why they are so far away from Rome, occupying this territory. But they're caught up in it. No one wants to make a decision. Ends up coming down to the local councillor. He just gives the people what they want so there's not a riot. Because otherwise, he's going to have a hard time quelling that riot. And, you know, there's pretty serious consequences. He's going to be in a lot of trouble. So there's nothing for it but to just execute the prisoner. Simple. And it's got to be put as a destabilisation against the Roman Empire itself. Therefore, he's got to be scourged to death, and he's got to be put up on a cross and supposed to be left there for days to die, as an example of what happens if you go against the Roman Empire. It's not common practice to spear them, kill them and stuff, you know. But they ended up having to happen. And then in that moment, this is the thing, the Christed one, such a saintly person. In that moment of being speared, and torture and agony, and then the further spearing of this is it, this is ending it. And he cries out from the depths of his being, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." He's using his last breath to pray for the people executing him. Now that there's a story worth lasting 2,000 years, right there. Let's just have a moment to just appreciate that, to just sit with it. Such a saintly person. The idea that he could be tortured so much, treated so badly, and then get to that moment where that further excruciating pain and that torture and that agony, the finishing one, it's a finishing. And he uses whatever he's got left in his soul to cry out, I reckon, comprehensively and fully, not half-assed, but fully. He cries out for the one persecuting him, executing him, doing the deed of the killing, being a puppet, being all those things, all the symbolism. He cries out in prayer, begging the Father that has abandoned him. Because this is what he's just done a few seconds prior to that. He's cried out, "Why hast thou forsaken me?" And then he's crying out. He gets like in that state of being forsaken, being abandoned by God. Well, sorry, I missed that kind of point, actually. That was the big point I was weaving to, and I kind of just missed it, going straight for this one. But so he's lost it, right? That's what the whole young thing about the book of Job is, and then God coming back as a man in order to understand what it's like to be human, and then all of that stuff that's come to it, and then being abandoned by his own God, by his own self, by the own higher consciousness, own higher almighty of everything. And losing the faith. So that's the point of understanding what it's like to be human, right? Why hast thou forsaken me? Sorry, I was building all of that up for 40 minutes, and then I missed that point. I do apologise. So that's where that goes, right? And then the spear comes in, and then he's like using all that he's got within his being to cry out in prayer, begging for the great spirit, the cosmic birther of all things, the absolute almighty of everything, to forgive these people that are killing him brutally, in a torturous manner, so callously, so maliciously. He's begging with a full spirit and full heart of love, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now that is compassion. That's compassion. That's a story worth lasting 2,000 years right there. But then the next point, and this is where I was going, so I sort of missed the first one about him losing the faith and crying out, "Why hast thou forsaken me?" Because I'm so focused to conclude at this point. Then the big thing with this, the big thing, is about surrender. Come to that surrender, right? Now, we all got to die, and every man will die. Every woman will die, and we will die simply as a man, simply as a person, simply as a human. That's all there is to it, right? And so, no matter how we live or how we die, we come to that point of conclusion. And the sufferance is over, because into your arms I commend my spirit. I let go. I release. I surrender. I surrender my entire being. I surrender my struggles. I surrender my fights. I surrender my battles. I surrender my ethics. I surrender my dogma. I surrender my principles. I surrender my sins. I surrender my doubts. I surrender my guilt. I surrender all that I've ever been, all that I never was, all that I wanted to be, all that I tried, all that I repent, all that I take joy and grace and gratitude and fulfillment, contentment and pride, and all that I repent. And all else that was or was not in the story of me, and all that I've learned and all that I've understood and all that I've experienced, I return it back to the Godhead, and I surrender myself as my identity, fixed here into your arms, back into you. And so every death is a suicide in the end, because you finally give up the will to live. But when you get to that point of that suicide, of finally giving up the will to live, then it's that full surrender. That's where it's at, the full surrender. The full, into your arms I commend my spirit. O heavenly birther of all things. And you want to understand this stuff, then what that reference is go and look up the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. I think there's, for you are the way, the truth. I think there's another line, and for you are the way, the truth, and the light. I don't know why that bit was left out in grade 1, but amen. Now, it's interesting. I never realised just till very recently that there's like Catholic and then everything else. I missed that memo. Now, if you look up the Lord's Prayer, translated from Aramaic to English, not from Aramaic to Hebrew to Greek to Latin to English, but from Aramaic to English, then that's what it is. It sounds like this hippie thing from the 1960s, 1968, you know. Oh, cosmic birther of all things, please carve out a space within us for you to abide. And then I can't remember all the ins, but it's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful thing. It's very beautiful. Now I'll finish with one thing here. The pagan ethic is do what thou wilt, but harm none. So I'm going to leave you with that. Do what thou wilt, but harm none. And Elvis has just rocked up and he wants to sing. So I've got the Bark Up Singers here. These new additions, they're growing on real good. These are going to be real good, padded out territories. Now, Elvis, you want to sing with me, my mate? You want to sing, my mate? You want to sing? You want to sing? We're going to sing. We're going to sing. We're going to sing. Let's go. Sing. Happy Easter. 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 All right. Have that one for free. Be safe. Be merry. Love each other. Cheerio.